Alright, and we are back. Before we get started with this next video, I wanted to share a quote with you from the Master Key System, and that is a quote by George Matthew Adams, and he says, and I quote, "Learn to keep the door shut, keep out of your mind, out of your office, and out of your world, every element that seeks admittance with no definite helpful end in view," end quote. What he directs us to do is to, likewise with Socrates and all those great people, because they all know the one basic they all know the road that they must take in order to really be and live as that, which is we have to learn to keep our states of consciousness habitually in a subtle state of mind, to see clearly, to see correctly. Let no element seek admittance from the outside that has no definite helpful end in view. If it doesn't help you, if it doesn't help you move forward, it's only bringing you back, you gotta let it go, man. And that goes with anything. Now, I am huge on balance. I don't believe there's anything wrong with doing it. It just depends on how much you do it. And I could have an issue with my regulations with how much I do something. We need to do more of other things. Now, part 21, the necessity of perfect health and how to secure it. To perpetuate the youth of the personality, perfect and continuous health must become an absolute necessity. This condition is not difficult to secure because the human system has within itself the power to supply itself with the full measure of absolute health, so long as it may exist in an organized form. There is an element of health in every atom in the being of man, and this element, when in action, has the power to give perfect health to the entire atom. Therefore, the secret of perfect health is to give continuous action to all the elements of health throughout the entire human system. And this may be accomplished in various ways, but there is one best way. Whenever any system of medication succeeds in healing the body, results are due to the fact that the elements of health that are latent in the system were placed in action by the methods employed. There is only one power that can remove disease, and that power is the power of health that is already latent in the life of the human system. The Science of Being Well by Wallace D. Wattles, he explains the exact same concept in that book. He says that every person has a principle of health within them, and this principle of health is always looking towards keeping the person healthy. And as we've gone over, that it is the duty of the subconscious portion of the mind to maintain harmony and perfect health within the body. Remember, because the subconscious mind is the body mind. It is the mind that keeps the heart beating without you actively needing to do it yourself. It is the mind which keeps, which makes your hair grow, which makes your skin replace itself, which makes your fingernails grow, without any thought on your part of making that happen whatsoever. It exists in the subconscious, and therefore the secret of perfect health is to give continuous action to all the elements of health throughout the entire system. Whenever any system of medication succeeds in the healing of the body, results are due to the fact that the elements of health that are latent in the system were placed in action by the methods employed. There is only one power that can remove disease, and that power is the power of health, and that is already latent in the life of the human system. To arouse that power is to heal, and any method through within. To arouse that power is to heal, and any method through which that power may be aroused may be used successfully in the cure of disease. Now, I know all of you have heard of the placebo effect. I guarantee you he's going to be talking about the placebo effect in this chapter. Because the placebo effect is a scientific explanation of how metaphysical healing works, that the conscious mind has that direct influence on the subconscious, and that if the conscious mind believes in health and affirms its own health and looks and thinks upon nothing but healthy conditions, These conditions will manifest themselves in the body. The body must in turn take on that form, not only in action, but since thought is a vibration. Remember, the body is nothing but chemical reactions, and it changes in accordance with the vibrations that it is put in. Our brain changes its structure. It structures itself in accordance with our habitual state of being. Remember, because it is the subconscious. Remember, thoughts are only seeds. We have to keep thinking those thoughts until they become what? Subconscious. And what have we learned that happens? Thought sets brain cells into activity. And eventually, the more we repeat a thought, the brain substance will eventually yield itself to that thought and will accept the thought and will groove themselves in accordance with the nature of that thought. And you will then express that thought in your character in the outer world. In the Master Key System, that's how Charles F. Handel explains it, that the brain is the best instrument, the best mechanism of attachment that has ever been created, the most important piece of machinery that God has ever created for us, simply because it is the portion which the soul can manifest itself through as a personality. Wow. Because personalities are subject to change. But us in our real state of being will always forever remain the same. That is really cool. To secure the best results, the system of therapeutics that is employed should not be used for the purpose of combating disease, but should be used directly for the purpose of giving greater activity to the power of health that exists in the life of the human personality. So doing those things that will complement the natural workings of our body already. If our body is already working to keep us healthy, we just must not do anything that interferes with this automated health process of the body. When disease conditions gain a foothold in the body, the normal action of the power of health is interfered with. In fact, a disease is simply nothing, or simply something that interferes with the normal action of power of health. And it has interfered the system because the power of health was permitted to run low. And how is it permitted to run low? As we've already discussed, by the conscious mind and its thinking process. That if it thinks that it is sick, and it believes that it is sick, and it impresses the subconscious that it is sick, the subconscious will then act as if that were true, and will begin to create that in the life of the individual. The only scientific method of cure, therefore, is to increase the power of health. To apply this method, the first essential is to learn why the power of health is permitted to run low, and the cause will usually be found in an adverse mental attitude. The immediate cause of low vitality in the system is produced by reckless or ignorant waste of energy, and this waste is invariably brought about by the false attitude of mind towards that something, and connected with which the energy was applied. Wow. You see everything you just said here? Look at the way I was in the beginning of the video before this, and you can definitely see how true this is, because that's just the energy that I was in, because that was the mental attitude that I was in. You're in that mindset, that state of mind, and that oh man. Because we do this to ourselves. That's the thing. Because everything that everyone goes through, they do it to themselves. Because you are a creator, my friend. And we need to learn how to just direct our forces correctly. To think correctly, to live correctly. And any false ways of living will create a false attitude. It will create it would create a false attitude. Nobody's here to be fake. We're all here to be real. When energy is wasted in connection with work, the cause is due to the fact that that work was not properly approached. That is, the work was not taken up in the right attitude. To think the work or to think of work as wearing and tearing or as wearisome and drudgery is to work in the wrong attitude. Because then you express that. You if you're mowing the lawn, you got this nasty look on your face, and you're just like, what the freak am I doing here? You know, like that's a false mental attitude towards the work that you are doing. And if that is work that you're doing that you know you're obligated to do because of money, then dude, go find some other work. You're not tied down there. You don't need to be there. And man, and if nobody wants to hire you, then freaking do something for yourself. Learn for yourself. Create something for yourself. There's many, many people that have created their own opportunity. Why not be one of them? Maybe that is your purpose. Maybe that's what God is calling you to do, because He's not allowing anybody else to give you a position. And even if He did and they're not succeeding, that is also probably one reason, because He wants you to be doing something better and greater, because He knows that you are better and greater, and He knows that you want to be better and you want to be greater, not just for yourself, but because you know ultimately it's going to be able to help those around you. The better you are as a person, the better your environment will become. You know, because you'll be able to help more people. You could change it more. You could have more of an influence on it. You know, you will have those people that just might completely turn their back on you due to jealousy, and due to the fact that they don't understand, and due to the fact that they're not aware of any of this. But we can't let that stop you. You can't let that stop you. When energy is wasted in connection with work, the cause is due to the fact the work was not properly approached. That is, the work was not taken up in the right attitude. To think of work as wearing and tearing, or as wearisome drudgery, is to work in the wrong attitude, and in consequence, energy will be wasted. Because nobody wants to be around anybody that has a bad attitude anyway. But when every action applied, yeah, Corey, nobody wants to watch your videos if you have a bad attitude either. And when applied in work is subjectively recognized as an action of development, every action exercised in work will promote development. The actions of the personality will do what we direct them to do, and when we firmly believe that work uses up energy, every action expressed in work will use up energy. But when we know that every action can place more and more power in action and work with that object in view, work will become exercise. Such work will not use up energy, but will instead increase the supply of energy, because the more you give, the more you get, and the more energy you put into something, the better you'll get at it, and the more energy you'll get back from it to be able to put more energy back into it. The attitude towards pleasure will, in like manner, increase or decrease the vitality of the system, depending upon the nature of the attitude centered into at the time. To enter pleasure for mere personal gratification is to waste energy and reduce a minimum of joy. To enter pleasure for mere personal gratification is to waste energy and reduce a minimum the joy expected. And reduce to a minimum the joy expected. There we go. But to enter pleasure for the purpose of gaining the soul of enjoyment is to place the mind in touch with the finer elements of life, and in consequence, new life will be gained and the maximum of joy secured. The mental attitudes towards life, action, thought, and living in general will, through the same principle, determine whether life force is to be decreased or increased. Therefore, the first essential in the attainment of health is to place the mind in those attitudes where power is never wasted, but instead is constantly being accumulated. As we have said, and as we keep saying, because I'm drilling into my own mind, is that we need to keep focused on building the new and not fighting the old, because it will be constantly being accumulated. When we keep putting energy into the new, that energy will be constantly being accumulated, and it will be in then turn built within the mind. It will build our mental home, and that will become, and that mental attitude will be who we are. It will be our mindset, and that mindset will determine the success we have and the influence we have in the external environment. Remember, as within, so without. The attitudes of accumulation mentally face the limitless at all times, and their object in view is to act in conscious touch with the soul of all things. When the mind enters into every action with the purpose of unfolding the soul of that action, it is in the right attitude, providing it subjectively recognizes the soul as the open way to limitless life and power. To give subjective recognition to any idea, law, or principle is to place the mind in the finer feeling of life and action, while that recognition is active in consciousness. So when he says subjective recognition, he's talking about feeling. Remember, subjective, how we talked about, we have to employ the inner subjective power of emotion melded with the inner subjective power of thought. They must be put together in order to create, because thought by itself will not create, and emotions by themselves will not create. They must form into one. And he says to give subjective recognition to an idea, law, or principle is to place the mind in the finer feeling of life and action, while that recognition is active in consciousness. Excuse me. And the power to do this is extremely valuable. Excuse me, sorry. Now I got the hiccups. Okay. And the power to do this is extremely valuable because subjective action is back of all physical action. We have to work with the subjective mind, because the subjective mind is the mind which puts the energies in motion, which creates the energies, the forces of all physical action. Thought is a directing force, but subconscious force is the real powerhouse force. Because without the thought to direct it within a specific place in the first place, there would be no real direction for all of these energetic forces to move upon. And the desire to do this is extremely valuable because subjective action is back of all physical action. Therefore, all physical action or change must be secured when the corresponding subjective action can be produced. Now remember the analogy that we talked about with the magnifying glass and the sunlight. The magnifying glass can be compared to the conscious mind, while the sunlight could be compared to the subconscious mind, the emotional mind, the body mind. Because the body mind, the emotional mind, the subconscious mind is always generating and radiating energy. The emotions are the powerful, the emotions are the strongest center of energy that is being radiated out of our body. You know, and thought is the directing force for the radiating of all of these energies, for the radiation of all of these energies. You know, just as the sun, we know the sun radiates all of the energy of the material world. You know, we get the vibrations of heat, of light, and everything from the energy of the sun. And when we focus the ray of sunlight with a magnifying glass and direct that energy in one specific point, what does it do? It burns whatever it is focused on. And likewise with you. Wherever you choose to put your magnifying glass and to focus your consciousness will determine where the focus of this energy of the subconscious mind is always being radiated, will determine the direction of where this mind will go. It's amazing. And you will then burn through the object of which you have in view like a laser. To produce any desired subjective change, place the mind in the fire. In the fire. Place your mind in the finer feeling of life and mentally picture the change as you would wish it to be in reality. Through this simple process, the subconscious mind is directed to do what you desire to have done, and whatever the subconscious is directed to do, positively it will do. Now that's one thing that also gave me another revelation with marijuana and how we talked about it'll set your imagination on fire. If we don't have control over the imagination, because the imagination is a faculty of the mind, we won't have control over our mind. And marijuana is a lot stronger nowadays than it used to be. You know, people were able to smoke a lot more and not get as high and still function like normally and not have the side effects that we do nowadays because of, you know, the things they've been adding to it, the things to make it smell better, to make it stronger, to get people more high and all these things and whatnot. You know, all these added chemicals that they do to add to it to make it more potent. Because of this, it just has more of an effect on our mind, which is a bigger reason why it's not something that we can do, because they change the chemical components of it to make it that much stronger. We don't need our mind to be just there all the time and just so freaking slow. Because if your energies are slow, the things you accomplish will be slow, and your building will be slow. The second essential in the attainment of health is to give greater action to the power of health that is latent in every part of the system. And the first step to be taken in this connection is to convince the intellect that the human system has the power to generate its own health. Remember, it's the power of the subconscious. If the system does not have such a power, it would not be possible for the body to regain perfect health through the recuperative powers of the body alone, the subconscious mind. But the fact that it is nature alone that can heal proves conclusively that nature has the real secret to health. The value of systems of therapeutics is to be found only in their power to place in action nature's healing agency, and the best of these systems is the metaphysical system. Chemical systems do not always reach the inner conditions of things, that is, the bottom cause, but metaphysics, when intelligently applied, can reach the very foundation of the trouble and remove it. To actually know and to mentally feel that the human system has the power to generate its own health opens the way perfectly for the application of metaphysics. Remember, metaphysical healing that we were talking about, which is the same as the placebo effect. And to secure this inner conviction of the reality of health, all that is necessary is to reason logically about nature and her recuperative power. Those, however, who already have perfect health, during their serene moments of thought, actually feel the elements of absolute health permeating every part of their system. And that is so true, because when you know that you're eating right and you're exercising right, and you also know that you're thinking right, and when you're meditating, all your forces are just centered, and you're just one with your environment and the energies around you, and you're just totally aware of other minds. You know, it's amazing, because when we enter into higher states of being, we're literally seeing other people from who they really are. You know, we see them from the light that they really are, that we're all lights of the world, that our very consciousness is the light within this dark world, because only your consciousness can actually create light from darkness, and your consciousness is the only one that has morals, and your consciousness is the only one that has the ability to choose to do something morally right over something morally wrong. You know, a lion will go out and hunt and kill all its animals because it's in its nature. It's you know, it doesn't have the thoughts to think otherwise. It's instinct. We also have that instinct within us, within the animal portion of who we are. But as a consciousness, as a soul, as a spirit, as the substance of the universe, as mind, we're able to make the decision to not do something like that. That if we wanted to be a vegetarian, we could just eat fruit all the time. And our body will be fine with that, because we were able to create other things that would be able to supply us with what we needed still. When the power of health is felt in this manner, the consciousness of absolute health has begun, and to steadily develop this consciousness is highly important, because whatever we become conscious of, we invariably bring forth into tangible expression. To deepen and develop the consciousness of absolute health will therefore cause a larger measure of health and a higher degree of health to find constant expression in the physical form. When the mind has become convinced, either through logical conclusions or conscious realizations, that the elements of perfect health do exist in every part of the body, and that these elements have the power to give perfect health to the entire physical body, so long as it may exist in organized forms, steps may be taken to place these elements of health in full positive action. And referencing you really quick, because how we've learned that each and every single one of our systems, even in the body, works independently from each other. Our liver works independently from the pancreas, but these two systems must work in congruence. We have to be able to keep our organized form organized. Even in you, he also talks about the cell is immortal, that the only purpose of the cell is to duplicate itself, that even every single cell in our body is constantly looking for duplication, to regenerate itself, to remake itself, to recreate itself as something new, and which is exactly what we're going over. That the body is never more than a year old at any given time. And that when we understand this and we put our mind in our body, or when we put our thoughts and our awareness into subjection to this reality, we will always be young, because we won't allow the thought of us getting older interfere and affect and influence this body that has been proven to always be young. And that the cell is an immortal thing, but it is only when these cells get and group themselves in accordance to where all those cells into those organizations, such as a liver and a pancreas, that in turn get together and build an even bigger organism. This organism, when we maintain its health and all the systems are working in congruence, we will be in perfect health. But if something happens in the liver and the pancreas is not working together, that creates a lot of friction and stress and resistance within the own body. And we have to cure that. And that cure is not through medicine, it's through foods. The cure is through food. The cure is through your thinking. The cure is through thought. The cure is through exercise. It's none of that synthetic medicine that is created by a doctor. It's real medicine that is created by God Himself, that is created by nature, such as spinach and cauliflower and greens and peas and protein and carbs and nutrients, not calories, not a Big Mac, not freaking Starbucks, not any of that crap. All those are designed to kill you. They're all designed to kill you. Because why? They just want their money. But you know what? That's not going to happen, because we're here. We're here to inspire you. And we're here to live that life. And we're here to make the sacrifices for ourselves. So we will be able to become that person for you. So we can inspire you. So you can see this guy was able to do it. And look how old this guy is. But look how young he still looks. And look at the things that he can still do for himself. And look at this journey that he had to take himself through, and that he took the time to put himself through, just so he can inspire you guys and show you guys that this is something that is truly real and it is possible. And the possibilities are endless for you. Once you understand this life and the realities of this life and how this life really truly works, not what the school has taught you. The school doesn't want you to know this stuff. People do, all they do is teach us how to do math and figures and English, and we hardly even use that in any portions of our lives. They don't teach us how to think. They teach us what to think, and they teach us to listen and to take orders. They never teach us how to work with others. Everybody wants to boss everybody around, but nobody wants to help lead people. Nobody wants to work with people. It's not about being a boss and paying somebody to do your work for you. It's about getting out there doing great work and inspiring others to do other great work for themselves as well. It's about reality and making some noise. It's not about the world of Caesar, the fake world, the world of distractions that have been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth that you create your life, the truth that we create our reality, the truth that after these hours of me reading and the fact that the elements of the marijuana has wore off a little bit more, now even my thinking is getting clearer, and even my thinking is raising to a higher state of being. Everything that we go through is really self-imposed for the most part. For the most part, because we have the decision to take crap from somebody else if they decide to put their negative forces on you. Oh man. Sorry about all that, everyone. I just kind of got very passionate about things. The subconscious mind in general should also be frequently impressed with the idea of perfect health, and the statement, "I am well," should be made a living power in the subconscious thought. Now, remember how we've gone over the affirmations and the power of I am. I am that, I am. The Bible says that I am is God's name forever. This is name forever, and this is memorial unto all generations. And you have the power to say I am, that the fact that I am is your very existence. I think, therefore I am. I am aware, therefore I am. I am alive. I am conscious. I am conscious, so therefore I am consciousness. And as consciousness is the only substance of the universe, and since you yourself are a consciousness being, you in fact must be one with this consciousness of the universe. There's no difference in kind and quality. The only difference is one of degree. Because remember, we are but a drop of this universal mind, out of this ocean of mind. And it is our very I amness that I am strong. In addition, thinking in general should conform absolutely to the principle that the reality of the being of man always is well. Remember, we must bring our thoughts. Our thinking must conform absolutely to the principle, because principle is God's law. And man cannot change the laws of the universe, but he can change himself to be in subjection and work with the laws of the universe. Because God is forever in order and he maintains perfect harmony. God knows what's best, and he put these laws for you to learn them and be in subjection to them, so you can live a godly life. Remember, straight is the way and narrow. Straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leadeth into life, and few there be that find it. Jesus. Because there is only one way, and I am is that way. Consciousness is that way. The world within, the kingdom of heaven, is the way. Just remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And when we seek first this kingdom, in all its goodness and all its righteousness, all other things will be added unto us. Why? Because as within, so without. Mind creates our reality. And we first seek the reality of our mind, and we are born again as the Spirit, then all those other things shall be added unto us. Because we have then found the cause of everything, and in turn can create those perfect effects, or those desired effects. Neither word nor thought should ever contradict the great truth that the real man is always well, nor should the individual ever think of himself as being anything else but the real man. To live perpetually in the consciousness of the reality of life, health, and wholeness is to permanently establish the active power of real health in the subconscious, and this is our object in view. There is an abundance of latent health in the system, and what we aim to do is to place that health in action. But this action must be subconscious or it will not be permanent. When the health of the subconscious life is being placed in action to the greater and greater degree, when he says that it must be subconscious or it will not be permanent, saying it must become habitual, that we must enter into the state of habitual health and action, or it will not be permanent. Yeah, Corey, we need to make this habitual again. We need to continue putting energies into it every single day, no matter what, every day. Commitment. Be committed to it. Be committed to yourself. That's what we're here to do. We're here to commit to ourselves, and we're here to work on that commitment to ourselves. When the health of the subconscious life is being placed in action to a greater and a greater degree, the tangible elements of health will begin to express themselves in the body to do the same degree. And if this process is continued progressively, the normal health of the body will be increased perpetually, thus providing the greater supply of health that will naturally be demanded by the increasing capacity of an ever-advancing life. To be simply well is not sufficient. Continuous advancement is the law of life. And to be in harmony with life, everything must advance with life. Therefore, both the quality and the power of health must be increased perpetually. And to really live the life of full happiness is to know that we are continuously advancing. Because I find that when I do read a book and read a chapter and record it, even if it's just one chapter, I'm happier throughout the day than if I didn't. And if I grow throughout the day, and when I end up smoking weed instead of making a chapter, I'll read, but I'm still thinking about how I should have just made a video, and to continue on the journey and to keep putting energy into the things that I really want. The things you truly want. And not what that has been taught to be desired by those people around you. To be satisfied with simply having good health is to begin to lose health, because that which ceases to move forward will begin to move backward. And to prevent the losing of health, it is necessary to develop better and better health. When an ailment appears in any part of the body, the mind should at once concentrate attention upon the elements of health in that part, where the ailment has its actual origin. This concentration, however, should be subjective, because subjective concentration invariably gives action to that upon which the concentration is directed. To give action to the elements of health wherever the ailment may appear is to cause that ailment to completely disappear. When the ailment is of most recent origin, a complete cure may be secured almost at once, and chronic ailments may be removed in the course of a few weeks, frequently in much less time. There is a malady, however, that is incurable. The power of health in the system is greater than any disease, because the former is natural, while the latter is unnatural. Therefore, perseverance will invariably succeed, because health is natural, and disease is not natural. And disease comes from violation of natural law. Disease comes from violating the laws of our body, the laws of our being. The law that if we don't eat the carbs that we need, if we don't eat the protein that we need, and all the nutrients that we need, and we don't exercise like we need, we're not going to get that body that we want, because we're violating law. We must put ourselves in subjection to natural law. The elements of health should be given greater action also in those parts that are in good health. First, because the increase of health in the whole body will make it easier to remove an ailment from any part of the body. And second, because to always have good health, we must constantly develop better and better health. Now that is the end of chapter 21. Made it to the whatever, man. More authenticity, less perfection. Remember, you're not here to be perfect. You're just here to grow and be better. Made to this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe and please share, and know that there's nothing that you can't have, and there's nothing you can't do, and there's nothing you can't be. There's a process and a road that you must travel to have those things and become those things. But that, as Lao Tzu had told us, that the start of a 10,000 step journey starts with the first step. In order to accomplish those dreams, you just need to start moving towards them. You need to start moving towards them, and you need to ignore those around you, ignore all of that, because you're on a road that nobody knows about, that nobody understands. Only you and God understand, and only those people that are on the road with you understand. With all that being said, we're going to end this right here, and I feel happier. I feel better, just the fact that regardless of the things that I had done that I don't quite always, that I know I shouldn't be always doing, even so, when you know that you're moving in the direction that you know it's helping you become the person you want, just keep putting energies into that, and don't stop. So that being said, we're almost done with this book. We only have about 20 pages left. 30 pages at most. 20-30 pages. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to get some water, and we will see you in a few minutes. And I really need to put the automatic lock off of my Mac, so I don't have to keep signing in every time I finish with the video. So I'll see you in the next one.